Hey guys, welcome into the Leadership Sandbox. We are all about disruption right now. We're all about change. I'm filming in a completely different location than normal because I'm on the road and I'm traveling. And I wanted to make sure that I hit you up real quick and in a hurry this week with something that's been on my mind and I'm frustrated about it. And so, sometimes I'll get messages from people that are like, hey, I listened to this week's episode. It's really good. What happened that had you lit up on fire? And it's like, because they can tell in my tone. And this might be one of those because I want to call out leaders, and especially at the C-suite level, that's allowing your top level executives to behave badly. I am really tired of seeing that. I have had many conversations. I would say in the last 3 weeks alone, I've had at least 2 conversations every week. So a half dozen conversations about this very thing where where senior executives' behaviors have gone unchecked. Their negative behaviors have gone unchecked. And no one challenges them. Why? Because, well, they're a senior leader. They have a big title behind their name. They carry a big stick. Everybody's afraid of that person. The names that they talk about that person, it's incredible. I've heard in 2 different of these conversations recently, which is not healthy, which takes up brain space and emotional expense that I just don't believe that right now in today's economy that we can be affording over toxic negative behaviors that ought to be addressed. I don't care what your title is. I don't care what your salary is. I don't care what position or rank you are. If you are impacting the environment in negative, hostile ways because of your nasty, bad attitude, then you need to be checked, and maybe you need to be put on notice that needs to change with a specific by when, or we're going to find you a new opportunity. Because those behaviors, here's what the studies are. This lit me up where I'm like doing research. Here's the real dollar impact of toxic behaviors. When it comes to senior leaders, it goes up. This is what toxic behaviors are costing. $292 billion a year is the estimated annual cost that toxic workers are costing in the US, right? That's accounting for salary, for burnout, for turnover, for disengagement, loss of productivity, all of that, okay? Here's another one. Team productivity drops 30 to 40% when toxic individuals remain unaddressed, when toxic behaviors remain unaddressed. Do you actually know that number goes up? And it turns into people, the good people that are willing to leave companies, leave organizations, and leave teams because senior leaders' bad behaviors aren't being addressed. The morale buster. You talk about you want engaged workforces and we want to build team morale and we want to build team collaboration. And that's great. I actually said to one person, please don't, I would not even feel good. I said this to a senior leader. You want to bring me in to fix a problem? Cool. However, I can't feel good. I won't. It goes against my integrity core value to say, yes, pay me to come in and help fix the problem you're actually not willing to address. So until we get you to want to address you as part of the problem because of this one individual you're afraid to talk about, or you're afraid to tackle, or you're afraid to put rules of engagement around them so that they're behaving properly in the workplace, till you're willing to do that, I got nothing for you. I'm not going to spend your money. I'm not going to take your money because that would go against my integrity. It's a waste of money until you're willing to rip the Band-Aid off of the fear factor that's causing you to avoid the one individual. Until you're actually willing to address the one individual, forget about it. We're not going to go there. Here's the deal. Good employees, like 54% studies say, I'm looking at it right now, 54% are more likely to quit if they must work within a toxic work environment because of a toxic leader. And did you know that the cost to hire that stellar, great employee that you're going after actually doesn't even matter because it's costing you more to not deal with the toxic environment, the toxic individual. It's costing you more in the turnover and the underperformance of the people that are frustrated, feeling broke, busted, and disgusted because no one's dealing with that one individual that's creating so much toxicity. Here's the bottom line. For each toxic character, organizations bleed roughly $12,000 to $13,000 annually for each person. Then you layer into the team, you layer into the training, you layer in the attrition, the wasted leadership time, all of that adds more money, more dollars and cents to that very low number of just human factor. Here's how negative behaviors take managers' time when we don't address them. 1 day a week minimum for underperformance. The avoidance driven delays, those projects that cause delays take 15% longer when people avoid working with bullies or negative influencers. When people are avoiding at a senior leader level, when they're avoiding having to go in and talk to their boss, they're delaying work productivity. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is HR is going, well, we hear you're not performing at your job level, but no one wants to talk about, well, yeah, because I got to go report to a bully who actually is really toxic and who is condescending and demeaning when they talk to me. And I'm not really comfortable about that. So I avoid it. So I just try to muddle through to get my work done the way that I can. And that's not a good solution either. So HR isn't solving the problem by only looking at the underperformance, because we got to get to the root of it, right? That's kind of where I go into, that's kind of that clickbait headline stuff that we get caught up in on social media scrolls, where you click on something and then you go into, because it's an interesting headline, then you go to the article and it doesn't match up what the headline said. It was just simple clickbait. That's clickbait in your workplace. Clickbait in your workplace, in clickbait leadership, I call it, in the workplace, is this. When you have an issue that gets to HR's desk and you say, oh, it's an underperformance issue, that's clickbait to go, oh, well, let's solve for the underperformance issue. We're not actually solving the bigger issue that's causing it, which might be a senior leader who's got a negative, nasty attitude that nobody wants to address because they're afraid of them, or because they think that they have a really heavy stick that they carry, and so we can't address them, or they've been here so long, or they have all this great respect in the workplace or great respect in the industry, but they're awful to work with. That's costing your team. Leaders lose strategic bandwidth and morale by firefighting low-level behavior issues instead of leading. Instead of leading and going after the lead of the leader, the leading cause that's causing the bad behavior or the negative, the underperformance, the people that are withdrawing in the workplace. It has a ripple effect. Here's some of the ripple effect numbers, okay? Operational delays, 15% longer. We've got replacement cost per hire, 30 to 200% of every salary for high turnover. When you've got 54% of your good employees that are willing to walk out the door because you're not addressing the one toxic person, hello, somebody. Think about how much that's costing your money, your money, costing your company. These aren't abstract losses. They directly hit the revenue, customer satisfaction, your ROI, and every dollar spent addressing negativity returns multiples in restored performance and trust and healthier cultures. So invest in going after that toxic negative person, that toxic negative behavior. It's hard for me to see when we have the pink, I call it the pink elephant with purple polka dots, sitting in the corner of the room, and they have a name and they have a title and they have a salary, and they might have been there for a long time or come in, and we're so grateful that they work with us now because they have all this great experience that they bring to our organization from something that they've done before us. And yet we're not noticing to address the negative behaviors that they bring in that are not part of the culture that we have here. I had one person telling me that they're really frustrated with their manager because they were trying to get meetings with him, and the meetings weren't happening because he would just do drive-bys. The manager would just do drive-bys and quick, 5-minute check-ins, not even check-ins, just a drive-by, hey, how's it going? And not really listening, and then going out to try to solve problems. And this his supervisor's going, wait, I can't talk to my manager. And he's going out and addressing issues with my team that I need to be able to address and not communicating with me. So I'm spinning my wheels. And this whole thing was all around a behavior and a culture that the new guy brought with him that nobody thought to say, wait a minute, here's the culture that we have here. Here's how we do it here. Let's talk about what you want. Let's talk about the behavior you're bringing, and then let's find how we work with it together. No one was doing that. So then I'm on a call. So they bring in the coach to come in and coach the supervisor because apparently he wasn't performing. Yeah, he was. He was trying to. But unfortunately, the communication factor was an issue because nobody was addressing this negative behavior that this new manager that they paid all this money, that they wooed away from another organization, that they were so excited to have him on board. No one was addressing him. Huge issue, huge issue. We'll get it solved. We're not quite there yet because I get to go in and have both sides reflect the mirror one to another to talk about it. You see, healthy culture correlates with improved productivity, but when you're not willing to address and talk about what's making the culture unhealthy, you can't fix it, y'all. Those negative behaviors, I don't care the title, I don't care the salary, I don't care the seniority. If there's a toxic negative behavior that's happening, it's our responsibility to get into it, to uproot it, and to navigate, handle it. It's our responsibility to do that. If you're the person, like you've heard me say before, that everybody's, afraid to say that the emperor has no clothes and you're marching around all proud, your team's afraid to tell you you got a negative attitude, you've got a toxic behavior, we need to find a way to address it. Every organization needs to have a way of addressing behaviors that are not serving us and that are impacting our productivity, our team morale, and our culture. When we are focused on cleaning up toxicity in the workplace, we gain time back. We improve productivity. We get to actually repurpose time and repurpose the team for other bigger things because we've expanded our capacity just by merely taking care of solving the toxicity that a leader is bringing into your environment. So please, I implore you, if you have a person, here's my 3-point checklist for you before we say goodbye today. 1, identify, do we have unaddressed toxic behaviors in our environment from anyone? All the way up to the top. Do we have them? If we do, what do we want to do about that? Okay. So identify it, right? Then you go to what are they, right? Get really clear. Oh yeah, we do have them, but let's get really clear. I want to get really clear on what they are and how they're impacting us. And then I want to decide how we're going to address it. And that's a real simple conversation to have. Because when we set ground rules for who we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for, what we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for, how we operate in our workplace. We have that set of ground rules, simple ground rules. When we're not all on the same page with them, we have an obligation to bring that, to raise up the flag and to say, this is who we are. This is who we want to be known, seen, and celebrated. This does not match. And you can do it with a simple question. Help me understand. How does this behavior match this value? How does this behavior match this outcome that we're going for? How does this behavior, this comment, this kind of conversation match or support achieving this? You got to have your ground rules very clearly outlined. Please do that. When you have your ground rules clearly outlined, you then can go back to the behaviors that are not supporting those ground rules we've all committed to. Simple step. Identify it. Identify what that behavior is, how it aligns or does not align to the ground rule. What's the ground rule that we have in place? And if you don't have the ground rules, start there. Then you get everybody on the same page. Once you've gotten through those ground rules, that's been a game changer for a lot of teams that I've had the opportunity to work with. And I've heard it from them that I'll get messages. They'll be like, Tam, thanks so much. Because we actually can point back to, beyond having values on the wall, we have ground rules of, this is who we are as a team. So when we bring in new people into the environment, we get to bring them up to speed on, this is who we are. This is how we operate. This is what we're known for. And this is what we expect. And it's a game changer every single time because we can save time. We can improve culture and morale by addressing that one pink elephant with purple polka dots in the corner of the room. But you can't just go address them without having the clarity of what are we addressing? Why are we addressing it? And what do we, if not this, then what? Take them through that whole conversation. But please address the toxic behavior. I don't care who they are. I don't care where they park. Maybe they have, if it's the emperor, we don't tell the emperor, that he's not wearing any clothes. Okay. We got to find a way. Someone has to be bold enough, courageous enough to say, I'm going to raise the flag here. And I want to talk about the pink elephant with purple polka dots. And I want to talk about this toxic negative behavior. I want to talk about it and address it because it's impacting us. And unfortunately, I've seen too many good people get pushed out of companies and off of teams because we're not willing to address the negative person, the negative Nelly, just because they've got a bigger title. Titles don't matter. People matter. Productivity matters. Title is just something we have to have on a name plaque somewhere. Don't get tied up in the title. Be willing to address it boldly. No more toxic behaviors. All right, guys, that's it. That's my rant for this week. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next time in Sandbox. Make it a great day. God bless.